Welcome to Behind the Event, a podcast that dives deep into the event industry. I'm Eric Westendorf, the founder of EventRender. The podcast is brought to you by EventRender. We help you run profitable virtual and live events through exceptional design. Be sure to check out our helpful event applications and design services at eventrender.com. Also, be sure to subscribe and like on whichever platform you use for podcasting, or if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and like there. And now we bring you Behind the Event. All right, so today on the podcast, we have an awesome interview with Hugh Forrest. Hugh Forrest is the Chief Programming Officer at South by Southwest. He's involved with a lot of stuff there. He's been around for quite a while at South by Southwest, I believe, since almost the beginning. Might have to check on that. Almost the beginning. So he's got a lot of experience with South by Southwest. And today we're going to, of course, be talking about what's happening with South by Southwest and how it's changed over the course of the last year. We can go into a little bit about what happened before that as well, but for the most part, we really want to dig deep on how Hugh sees things going on right now and how South by Southwest has changed, and just kind of get an overall feel of what's going on, and hopefully we have some hope for the future of the event industry. I'm sure, things are changing so quickly, and so there's lots to talk about. So overall, Hugh oversees programming for South by Southwest, the conference, as well as the music festival, the film festival, and the comedy festival, and South by Southwest EDU. Is that correct?
That is correct, Eric. And let me say it's great to be here with you today. I hope that I can offer some insights to you and your audience with the context that we're kind of all in a new reality and all kind of fumbling our way through this at times.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we all understand that overall it's a very uncharted territory, and so not everyone has all the best answers in the world, so everyone's kind of trying different things right now. And so it's great in the end, even just to hear about what other people are doing, what other events, how they're handling events and that sort of thing. So I definitely appreciate you being on and helping everyone to help in their guidance to find
Absolutely.
a way. Cool. So I guess I'll just start off with sort of what happened with South by Southwest this year in 2020. How did you guys handle it? Did you have to cancel? What sort of steps did you take there? And then we can kind of go into what South by Southwest is looking for next year in 2021. So could you tell me a little bit about what happened this year?
Sure. So this was the first year in 30 plus years that South by Southwest didn't happen. We were founded in 1987, or that was our first year. For 2020, just the timing of South by Southwest happened to be right when the pandemic was moving into the U.S. or seemed to be moving in the U.S. We were working very closely with the city of Austin and the health department in Austin. We thought we were going to be able to do the event, and then a week out, the city decided that in the interest of safety, that the event would be canceled, and the city canceled us. So that was devastating because, as you know, as your listeners know, when you're in the event business, you work a long period of time on an event, and it's a long slog, but when the event actually happens, you usually get, some positive reinforcement or whatnot for all that work, and working for that long and not having that was certainly a whole different experience. We did eventually create some free content, a small amount of free content that we ran from May through early May through late June on the South by Southwest website. That was, again, ungated, so anyone could see it, anyone in our community could see it, and it did provide some content, and some of the speakers were speakers that were scheduled to be part of the event in 2020. But again, certainly this was a far cry. What we offered online was a
this
far
stuff
cry
that you
from
recorded after it all happened, or?
Yeah, it was stuff we recorded and broadcast, essentially streamed live in May and June. Again, in many cases, it was connecting with speakers who were scheduled to be part of the event, and asking them if they wanted to be part of this series of content. And in some other cases, it was new speakers that hadn't been scheduled. So that was neat to do that, but again, very, very different from what would happen in a more normal, traditional IRL version of South by Southwest, where we would have 2,000 total sessions over 10 days, 1,500 bands, 300 films, hundreds of comedians, all kinds of creatives from all over the world converging on Austin. But again, in a world where
couldn't recreate that in a moment's notice. Yeah.
It was a different thing.
Right. And so transitioning to that, or from that into 2021, are you able to replicate that in any way? For one, what are you guys, planning to do? I don't know how much exactly you can reveal yet, because there's still stuff to be revealed, I'm sure. But like you just said, there's so many elements within the live setting that you typically program. Are you able to replicate all that for 2021, or what's it looking like?
I don't think we can replicate all of that for 2021. We have announced what we are calling South by Southwest Online 2021. As the name implies, this will be a virtual experience. We are still holding out a little bit of hope and working with the city to see if there's any way to supplement that with some kind of live experience. That's probably a long shot at present, but again, it's something we're still holding out some hope for. In terms of this, of what the online or virtual experience will be, it will be a smaller footprint than what we typically have for South by Southwest, fewer days and fewer sessions, fewer music showcases, fewer film screenings, just fewer comedy showcases. So again, will be a very different experience. It certainly poses lots of challenges for us in the sense that we've got 25, 30 years of experience in producing live events.
Yep.
The last 10 years, we have streamed some content from that live event, but that's been kind of an adjunct to the live event and not the main focus. So again, big challenges. That said, with every challenge, there's lots and lots of opportunity, right? And I think that's the way we've got to approach these things. So some of the big opportunities we see for 2021 are as follows. One, we'll have a smaller price point for the virtual event than what we had for an in-person experience. So we think that opens up the event to a new audience and expands the audience, and we hope we can create a scale there that we couldn't create in an in-person event. The virtual aspect of the event also eliminates some of the pain points that we've had in recent years. Those pain points being, a venue that was too crowded, where there weren't enough seats for everyone to get in, and people being frustrated that they couldn't get in. So again, in a virtual world, that issue of scale isn't such a big factor. I think it also, the virtual aspect opens us up to bring in speakers or bands or performers that maybe travel was a big obstacle before. So if you're simply doing a Zoom call like we're doing now, or doing some kind of online platform, the commitment to be part of the event is
no excuses.
Yeah, well, it's less, and you can't. They can't use that excuse for not wanting to participate.
Right.
It also, certainly reduces in many ways the costs of producing an event. And then last but not least, I think that the virtual aspect of the 2021 event will allow us to better emphasize and articulate one of the big strengths of South by Southwest over the years, which is that it brings together different kinds of people from different kinds of communities. And I think we'll be able to again emphasize that cross-pollination in the virtual world in a way that maybe we couldn't emphasize in the IRL IRL world, and maybe that allows people to more strategically take advantage of that kind of overlap and convergence. That is really one of the big competitive differences of an event like South by Southwest.
Opening it up to a whole new amount of people. Is that something that, I don't know if the case was big enough in this previous year's online content that you put out, but did you gather any of that, like any more people that watched the content than would have normally seen it that you put on this year?
For what we did in the spring and May and June, we certainly did not achieve the degree of scale that we would have seen in an IRL event, or degree of scale we hope to achieve in March 2021. But I also think that realistically, that was to be expected. It was our first really dipping our toe in the water on something that's entirely virtual, and with everything, and certainly with our experience with South by Southwest, it's you start at one spot and you grow, and that will be our method to this as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you have to start somewhere. So it's a good spot to start. So going into more of the stuff about what you guys are kind of specifically doing for 2021, and again, I imagine there's still plenty of things that are still being worked on. Obviously, the event happens still a ways away. So for one, I don't know if you have anything built out for this yet, but certain things are obviously harder to do virtual. So for your conference portion, is there any sort of supplemental things that you found to tackle things like networking and things like that typically are easier to do in a real live setting, and then harder to do on a virtual setting? Is there anything that you guys have figured out, or I guess are trying now, to tackle things like networking and stuff like that?
Well, I think we'll try to do a lot of the same things in a slightly modified way that we had done in a traditional IRL event, but again, try to translate those to virtual. So, as a for instance, one of the things we've done a lot of over the last 5 years, if not longer, at South by Southwest, is just meetups within the event, which help people find their communities, find other people in their communities. Yeah. So we'll do that online using the chat functionality and functions of the platform we use. I think in some ways the virtual landscape will make it easier for people to be more strategic and intentional, to identify and connect with the exact people they want to meet with, and that is in many ways a good thing. But I think we're also conscious that with a lot of events, sometimes the best connections you make happen in a serendipitous fashion.
There's
ride up the elevator with someone.
Right. I was just going to say, no grabbing a drink really anymore.
And there's that factor of randomly bumping into someone, then saying, "Hey, let's go have lunch. Let's go get a coffee. Let's go grab a drink." And that kind of serendipitous connection is certainly harder to create online.
So you haven't figured it out. Okay. Well,
well, we haven't completely figured that out. Give us another 24 hours or so. And
it'll be done.
No. I think that, again, it's a trade-off there. More organization, more intentionality, but less serendipity and less of that face-to-face social interaction that we all
so it's enjoy. It's a bit of what you expect going into this stuff, which is you kind of have to find your own path in a way and start those conversations and whatnot.
A little bit of a side note, but I think relevant to the basic context we're in now, or the basic challenge. I've been lucky enough to be invited to talk about South by Southwest at a lot of different places around the U.S. and around the world over the last 5 years, 10 years or so. And one of the things I would inevitably do is talk about, what are the threats to events like South by Southwest? And I always said, well, virtual reality. What happens when we can put on a headset? I don't think we're there yet, but we'll be there soon. That instantly transports us to Austin or Denver or wherever, and we can experience that place in a way that's much more convenient and much more cost-effective and much more intentional than face-to-face. And will that kill the conference industry? And my inevitable conclusion was no, it won't, because people still crave, or are always going to crave, being within another foot of another person.
That's why you still go to your local, very nasty dive bar to see a band and stuff, right? You don't necessarily go there to be clean. You just want to be within the actual setting, right?
There's something in our DNA that just, we want to be with other people. So I could always kind of dispel that straw man argument about virtual reality. I think virtual reality is great and it'll have a lot of purposes, but I don't think it defeats conferences. But I do think that we hadn't really anticipated and put into the frame of reference or frame of considerations what happens when there's a pandemic where people can't get, congregate in the ways that we've congregated for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And I do think that, again, we can do a lot of things online and find some solutions and find some efficiencies. I also think that hopefully in 2022, when we're on the other side of this, there's going to be huge pent-up demand for people congregating. And that those of us in the event industry who can figure out ways to survive and thrive during the tougher years of 2021 will be in pretty good shape as this stuff begins to come back in 2022 and 2023 and beyond that.
Yeah. No, I think it's important. What you just said was, if you can in some way, which a lot of companies are already out of sort of the game, but if you can somehow survive through 2021, then I think you're right. I think there's hope, light at the end of the tunnel, and that people do still want to congregate, like you said. So as long as we can get through this, find cures.
We still got a long way to go, right?
Yeah, we do.
But
everyone's just got to buckle up for the ride. Hopefully,
that concept of light at the end of the tunnel is something that keeps us all going, right?
Yeah, right. I was going to ask, given what you're just talking about with all the different, virtual reality, all the different technology that we're trying to sort of use to sort of recreate the actual live event, or at least in the best possible way we can. Is there any one portion of South by Southwest that has been the hardest to transition? So I imagine that music is probably pretty tough. I mean, you can do live music, streaming and stuff, but you still have to have a good production setup for that, and then stream it. And then film, another thing that seems like it would be tough. So yeah, what have you run into any huge speed bumps
Yeah, I
there?
think that your points are spot on. That the festival aspects of South by Southwest, the music festival, the film festival, the experiential marketing, which had really taken off in the last few years, where companies were coming in and building huge activations on site. I mean, I don't know if there's any way that you can really replicate that online. But again, from a conference perspective, from creating sessions, panels, keynotes, meetups, there's some things you can do in an online world that are not all that different than an in real life setting. Again, that whole aspect of networking and that whole aspect of serendipitous connections is challenging. And one of the things you think about there is typically at a conference that we attend, if we hear a speaker that we like, we try to go to the stage and hand the person our business card and say, "Hey, really liked your talk. Give me a shout sometime." Right. How do you do that in an online world? I think we've got some strategies there, but it's again a little different experience. So again, lots of challenges, but again, looking at the glass half full perspective, lots and lots of opportunities also.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of transitioning over to what the programming is going to be like a little bit for 2021. It looks like from what was announced, at least on your website right now, the themes kind of range from racial injustice, climate, tech, all sorts of lots of topics, I guess, to talk about, since the last year has been an interesting one. So in deciding, to program South by Southwest 2021, how important is this year compared to previous years? Obviously, previous years, there's been plenty of issues as well, but is there any different sort of scope that you're looking at this year through, and how you've decided to program that?
Yeah, well, we had approached the programming for 2021 in a very different way than we have for, again, past 2-3 decades. And that started or was independent of the pandemic. And so the idea was we came up with these 7 themes and started working on those in January, and finalized those in, I think, late April, early May.
Okay.
And that is much earlier than we've ever had themes for the event before. What we've typically done before is come up with kind of themes in say February, a month out of the event, saying these are the big themes that we think are going to happen or look like they're going to happen this year. Yeah. But for 2021, we kind of announced those themes beforehand and said this is what we want to how we want to shape the event. So it was certainly a more intentional approach to the kinds of content we wanted to focus on, which made sense for the overall growth of South by Southwest, our maturation as a platform. But I think it also made sense in terms of where the world is in 2020, with so many really significant and important and relevant topics, and how could South by Southwest address those? I mean, those topics ranging from the pandemic to climate change to George Floyd and Black Lives Matter to how business has changed or is changing to react to these things. So again, it was a much more intentional approach we took this year, and we'd gone down that path or started on that path long before the pandemic. I think it kind of works out in the pandemic, but again, very different.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's awesome that you've had time in a way to sort of work all that out and see how things have gone, because it's very topical right now on everyone's mind. And again, kind of like you were saying earlier, it's awesome that it's going to be a more global. You're going to have a more global reach this year with it being online, right? So a lot more people will be able to get to hear about some of these things, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Which is awesome. Even though like we're all disconnected, we're hopefully kind of all on the same page when we can all hear about this stuff thanks to events like this. So with all these different themes and topics that you're doing, have you kind of gone through each theme and decided what presenters you're going to choose in that? How does that whole process typically work? And obviously now that you've sort of done it beforehand, are you sort of selecting all the speakers with more time now, or how does that work?
We are still at the kind of tip of the spear on that process, okay. And it's a little bit later in terms of our time frame than where we would be in a traditional year, but this is not a traditional year. Typically we get 60 to 70% of our content via this interface we call the panel picker, which is right. Where the community sends in speaking ideas. We have the panel picker. We're using the panel picker again this year, and we'll get a lot of content that way. But we're also curating a significant amount of the content, which is what we do normally. And the stuff we curate will even more specifically align with these 7 themes. Gotcha. So in a more normal year, more traditional year, maybe normal is the wrong way to say it, we would have had our first content announcement maybe 2 weeks ago, mid-October. Mm-hmm. For 2021, it's more likely our first big content announcements will come in early January. Okay. So again, that's very, very different, but I think it also reflects a reality of how people, absorb, how people interact with online events, that you've got a kind of maybe a shorter buying period. When we were working with or in a real world event, one of the things that pushed demand for South by Southwest and pushed people to buy badges was they wanted to get a hotel room in Austin. Mm. And you book your hotel room through South by Southwest, so you're essentially, you need to buy a registration first to book your hotel room. So we'd have people buying registrations in August, the first day we would open. Again, the hotel stuff is not a factor, or doesn't look like it's going to be a significant factor for 2021. So that has changed completely. And again, we're releasing content much later. Again, curating a lot of that content. And we again think we can pull together a really compelling program that the virtual nature of the event opens us up to a lot of speakers we haven't been able to get before, and hope that the brand, the equity that the brand has achieved over the last 30 years gives some of these speakers an incentive to participate in South by Southwest, and again, create something that's really meaningful for our community.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case. And I imagine, hopefully, that the fact that it will be reaching a much wider audience, I would imagine that would be a thing as well for them, hopefully,
Yeah, that's always been one of the advantages of conferences, and one of the advantages of an event like South by Southwest is hey, I can go to this event and in 2 days and 3 days, I can meet as many people as I would normally would take me 2 months or 3 months to meet.
Yeah.
So, translate that to an online world. I can participate as a speaker and devote a couple hours to recording a Zoom call or whatever platform we're using, and create that many contacts, create that much buzz, create that much media attention in that short of time. No, that's a win-win for everybody, right?
I would think so. Yeah, I would be jumping to present, given the fact that it's online and you're reaching so many people. Obviously, I'd be jumping to go on a live thing too. But
2022, my friend.
Yeah, I'm just a little guy. But if I was, anyone, I think, the online thing has sparked a new, array of people that can view it. So sometimes cool. The in-person thing, like you've been saying, though, there's so many other aspects to that, which is great. So aside from kind of all we've discussed so far, you mentioned like virtual reality and some other technology that obviously has been sort of in the back of people's mind for a long time, that are either doing events and it really in a lot of other industries too. Are there any certain types of technology that have kind of popped up, that you guys tend to lean on more now? Like obviously live streaming is something that you've started to incorporate in as well. Is there anything else that you guys do that is a little bit newer or different than what you used to do in some previous years?
Well, we have covered VR, AR, XR, MR a lot in recent years. We have a kind of mini trade show that's devoted to that, and we had last year or 2020, spring 2020, when the event was canceled, we actually worked with Oculus to create kind of a mini showcase of VR content. So that was a pretty neat win. We've done more stuff with some AI platforms to help us evaluate some of the things that we're looking at, or to assist our human eyes in evaluating some of the things we're looking at. And that specifically helps with a somewhat reduced staff due to some COVID layoffs. So I think those are two of the big things we're leaning into for 2021.
Yeah, seems like you're using some of the newest stuff when you talk about AI and virtual reality and stuff. What is I'm not familiar with what you and Oculus did together. Is that still on demand, or is that something?
I think that there was a specific window on that, but it was simply giving a platform to some of the projects that we're going to screen at South by Southwest and
to be able to screen it in VR.
And using the reach of Oculus to get that out to a different audience, and seemed like that was a win-win. So really need to be involved with them on that.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, that's definitely cool to hear. Kind of exploring these sort of different things. A lot of people, that I come across still have tons of questions about some of this new technology. So I always like to hear what actual events are doing with them. So, and obviously, even if Oculus calls you up and say, let's try something, it's like, well, even the companies that are making this stuff, sometimes they're still exploring what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, stating the obvious, there's lots of really interesting and intriguing new technical tools out there.
Yeah.
And we're always trying to incorporate those to create a better experience. But again, I think that conferences, events, conventions, festivals, however you want to phrase it, are strong testament to, the power of humanity, that ultimately it's humans that run this thing. Ultimately, you can have the greatest tech in the world at your event, but if you don't have good customer service, you're going to fail most of your audience. And
So some of the basic rules still apply.
Absolutely.
Make sure that staff that you have always had is there to make sure that people aren't, for one, fumbling with all the technology, and then, that just ruins their whole experience probably. Right?
Every event, almost without fail, is going to have some kind of technology problem.
Sure.
So the important thing is knowing how to rebound from that, and the important thing is being straightforward with your audience when that happens, with your community, and I think that if you can do that, if you can again provide customer service, which in 2020, and I think for several years moving forward, there's still a human face to that. Then that's what people want, and that's what makes for a successful event.
Yeah. I always hope for a face-to-face interaction, but of course, there's plenty of instances where it's automated something, and typically it's not as good of an experience.
Well, chatbots and things like that certainly have a value, and can help provide a lot of answers to a lot of people in a way that maybe you can't scale with humans. But
true.
Again, I think that whether it's the business we're in of events, or whether it's selling whatever widgets, you've got to also provide something fairly transparent for a way to reach a human. One of the people who spoke at South by Southwest maybe 15 years ago at this point was Tony Hsieh from Zappos, the online shoe company, and very successful. And something that he said that made a strong impression on me was that as much as they were depending on sales online, they one of their goals was to put the phone number on every single web page, such that at any time, if you were a customer and you got lost, you could call up and talk to someone at Zappos. And of course, they were famous for those stories that their agents would occasionally order a pizza and have it delivered to the person who was calling. So again, all this is a long story to say that technology is important. Technology helps us. We're all trying to adopt new technology, and technology is great and can help us in a lot of ways. But again, customer service, I'm a huge believer that that's the bottom line to serving our communities.
Definitely, 100%. Yeah, I wouldn't want to take this on too much of a tangent, but I know that there's plenty of companies out there that stand way out from the crowd, just like you said with Zappos, because of their central focus around customer service, right? Like that's their number one goal, to have the best customer service, and typically that works out.
Absolutely.
So just some quick future of the industry sort of questions, just to throw them out there. Gotta predict stuff. So we'll go over this stuff real quick, and then I'll let you go, get on your way. So first off, what is your prediction for what events will look like in the summer of 2021? So not too far away, not even too far after your event. You think there's going to be any change? Hybrid? We're going to have a cure? Everything's going to be live again? No.
I think cautiously optimistic for end of second quarter, beginning of third quarter 2021. Cautiously optimistic we have a vaccine, and we know from even this year that when the weather got warmer, that helped as well. So I think we'll begin to see that light at the end of the tunnel. Summer 2021. It is hard to think that it's going to come too much earlier than that, however.
Gotcha. Yeah. I would say the same, in that, yeah, we are trying to be optimistic, but at the same time, still holding a little bit tight, in that we're trying to ride the wave as long as we can until we get some more sort of clear answers. So another one, Are your customers saying anything about things that have changed? Your feedback from events. Have you gotten any word on basically what people are thinking and saying about what's going on right now, I guess, in the future of what's happening?
I think that we are lucky at South by Southwest that we have, built this brand over 30 years, and we have a pretty loyal customer base or community, however you want to phrase that. They are excited to a degree about what we've got in store for 2021. They're supportive of our plans moving forward, and as before, they're really hungry for 2022 when we can
be in person,
which is most likely when we can be back in person. But again, we're still holding out. There's something could happen, some kind of miracle could happen for 2021.
Yeah, well, that's awesome to hear that people are eager. Obviously, they're probably still eager to get any type of content, but of course, the in real person sort of content is what they're really wanting, which is awesome to hear. Are there any elements, I guess this will be kind of the last thing, that you're excited about all this, or any, I guess, contrast the elements that you're sort of excited about and sort of more concerned about? I mean, I think we've discussed a little bit about some of the things that are good and not good, but anything else that you could think of that has kind of been beneficial overall, and then obviously other things that have not, given the whole scenario.
Well, I'm going to flip it and go with negative first, and then on a more positive stuff. I mean, I think that what we are most concerned about is just that we haven't done anything to this scale before, virtual this scale before. And that, one of our biggest keys to success at South by Southwest has simply been longevity, that we've been around for 30 years. We have grown slowly and organically. We've embraced one or two new things every year. And over the course of 3 decades, that's been a formula for some pretty significant growth and a pretty intricate, complicated event. But in 2021, we don't have that luxury so much of slow growth. We got to kind of, turn on the faucet at full blast. So that is very scary and concerning.
Yeah.
What it makes us optimistic, or what is exciting about this, beyond the new opportunities for scale, opportunities for international growth, opportunities for a lower price point, is this idea that it's pushing us to learn things very, very quickly in a way that we wouldn't normally have. And again, when we come back with real life events, which is most likely in 2022, at that point we'll be able to offer a hybrid experience. So you got one part of your community that can absorb the event virtually, and another part that absorbs the event in real life. And in that sense, you can dramatically increase your reach. And that's, again, really, really exciting. Yeah,
that's awesome. Definitely tough to pivot when you've grown over 30 years to something.
Yeah, and I think, with events, with businesses, with life, with whatever, we often don't, pivot or take big steps or embrace big change until we're absolutely forced to.
You have to,
We know that.
Well, then 5 years down the road, you'll look back and be like, remember when we did that? That actually happened.
Yeah, it's that thing that you go through a crisis, and then in retrospect, you say, that was the best thing for me, which it maybe wasn't, but
right. Well, like
5 years later, it was.
Right. And like you said, you learned a lot, right? So I think one of the best takeaways in a lot of these talks has been that overall, like you just said, you learn a lot. So like, no matter whether it could be good or bad, potentially for the company or for whatever you're doing at the time, you do learn quite a bit, because you have to try a lot of things, right? So you learn a lot when you try a lot of things.
So. Yeah. Necessity is the mother of invention and innovation, and none of us had to have faced a necessity like this one before. let's hope that this is a once in a generational thing, that we don't have to deal with something like this again. But again, I think that for events that are lucky enough, that are smart enough, that are savvy enough, that are wise enough to survive, will come out of this in a much stronger place. And the future, the midterm and long-term future is really exciting.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. Awesome. Well, thanks a bunch for talking today. Really appreciate it. Helps everyone get a little bit more clarity as we were talking about. And so March 16th.
Absolutely, Eric. Thanks for having me on board. It's I hope that whatever insights we've been able to pull together in the last few months can help with your audience and help inspire people in this industry to try to push forward through some very difficult times.
No, I love it. Appreciate it a bunch. So the event is March 16th through March 20th in 2021. And will people be able to go to southbysouthwest.com to attend the event? You said it's the price point is going to be a lot lower, right?
Yep.
Basically just look on there.
We will start selling credentials in mid-November or so. And so
okay.
Depending when this airs, people may be able to buy then or buy later. Again, the upside of one of the upsides of a virtual event is the price point will be much lower. So hopefully that again opens the event up to an audience that may not have been able to experience it in recent years, and helps expand our community, which we're really excited about.
Definitely. Well, I think that's a lot of reasons to go check it out. So anyone who's watching this, go definitely over there, grab a ticket and then check that out, because for one, if you want to learn about whatever everything we just talked about, you can watch the effect of it. Right? And so I'm excited to watch as well. So
cool. Thanks, Eric. Thanks so much for having us on and make me sound like I know what I'm talking about. Okay.
No problem. Thanks for being on, and take care.
Excellent.
Thanks for watching or listening today. If you would like to hear any more or watch any more in the future, just go ahead and subscribe, whichever podcasting platform you listen to or watch. We post on YouTube as well as many other podcasting platforms. And if you have any questions for us, just go ahead and go over to eventrender.com and you can send us a message through our website there. Thanks and take care.